So the question is, I'm a working professional, and how do I get into the field of AI? So for this question, I'm a working professional in this field of AI. I come from the instructor side. We have Prakash with us, who is in the practicing data scientist. So we have, Anidhi, who has recently learned ML, and she also has her point of view. So we'll kind of like answer these questions, all three of us. So before you ask this question, so I'll let me start with my answer. So you're a working professional, you want to get into field of AI. Before doing that, you have to know what role are you targeting. So let's say the role which is the most popular is data scientist. It's like in movies, whenever a movie is shot, the person who makes the most money, the person who is the most visible, the get most marketing is the actor, not the stuntman, not the director, not the songwriter, not the story writer, but the actor. It's the same thing in the field of AI. It's the data scientist who has all the fame, the name, and the money. So hence everybody assumes that I want to become data scientist. But to clarify your questions, you should be asking yourself, do you want to become a data scientist or a data analyst or data engineer or a machine learning engineers? These are all different roles in the field of AI, and they all require different knowledge. But no matter the role, the basics of data science, it's kind of like same in all. So how do you get into field of AI? My recommendation is from your current job, look for something which has some bit of AI. It's like you start shifting towards the field of AI slowly instead of trying to directly take a jump and maybe, do a new course, drop out of your job, give notice. And instead of, doing such an extreme step, I would recommend go step by step. Let's say if you're a SQL guy, go into data analyst role and then data science role. If you are somebody, let's say from DevOps learn cloud computing, and from cloud computing you can go into AI ops role. If you have some good maths background, then you can directly start into data science. I would say, based on your current situation, this is the path you can take. That's the best path in my opinion. Prakash, you want to add something? What's your point of view towards this question?
Yes, yeah, thank you, Ajinkya. Hello, everyone. My name is Prakash. So I'll just try to add a bit on these questions. Yeah, being a working professional, it could we cannot assume that you might be in software industry itself or in IT. You might be belongs to the finance, or it could be anything else also. So definitely, from which field you belongs to, your journey might be a little bit different, but more or less the points would be quite similar. That being a professional, it means you have a good understanding of the domain knowledge you are working in. So working on the AI means you want to apply the artificial intelligence, machine learning into the very field you are. So starting on that point, that your journey would be quite non-traditional way, that you first start analyzing yourself, that where you find yourself pretty much aligned in the field of AI. AI is in a big ocean, so you don't need to develop the algorithms if you are not from the background of software engineering and computer science. But there are a way to look at the things and understand the data and everything. So starting on the AI means you take your interest forward and try to connect it with the practical problems people are working on this whole world, maybe in your organization, maybe outside. So start learning from the practical perspective is really very helpful for a professional. And wherever you need a support from the concept perspective, from the knowledge, syntax, anything, you get that knowledge. Mostly for the professional, it would be nice to join some specific online courses for sure. That is really helpful. So getting knowledge from the online courses will be a lot helpful, and keep doing the practice on the free platforms like Kaggle is there. And these days, yes, we don't need any resource actually. Having a laptop works for us. Like we have Google Colab, we have Kaggle, we have everything. Data is available, problem statement is available to learn the things. So you can put your being a professional, your domain knowledge into the technicality of machine learning, more on the practical sense, and going forward to learn the concept wherever it is needed. So this would be, that will make you more result oriented person, which is slowly getting into the field of AI. So that is like my take on this question. So, thank you.
Thanks, Prakash.
Um,
You brought up a very good point, which said that not everyone is from software development background. So if you are from a testing background in field of AI, there is not much yet mature methodology of testing the ML models. So that's
Right.
still something which is lacking, and you could do that, and you could be amongst the frontier of this thing, in which you are the ones who is ensuring there is a proper testing pipeline and methodology for AI. We also have Jan, who is from product management background. So he has also contributed quite a lot in our content. So it's like maybe he can give a point of view about if you are from management, then how could you get into the field of AI and what could you do? Maybe his perspective will also be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Ajinkya. Yeah, for sure. I come from the business background, so I don't have a technical background. So for me, getting into AI was an interesting journey. And how I approached it was first to learn from others, to listen, to watch, and to read, to get an understanding of what AI actually means. And for example, what was incredibly helpful for me was the podcast from Lex Friedman. Maybe you are aware, like I can, if you don't know him, please go to his YouTube channel and subscribe. He does an interview series with incredible people in the AI space, and also very broad. That's, for me, was incredibly interesting. So he also talks to neurosurgeons or neuroscientists to also understand how the brain works, because this is what we want to imitate with AI, the brain. And that was, for me, very helpful to not like go straight into, let's say, machine learning algorithms, like very specific, but first understand a little bit more the big picture. And this is something how, as someone from the business side, was a helpful approach to really see, okay, how others do it, what are some interesting resources, and be fairly broad at the beginning, and then I can narrow down, because then I have the understanding of what AI actually means and what we try to do. So that's just my 2 cents to it. If you're a working professional from the business side, start high level before you take the first, let's say, online course about machine learning. Explore a little bit the space first. And Lex Friedman is, for me, just one example. There are many others, but I think he's a very good person to follow and to learn from.
Nidhi is someone who has recently got into the field from a different background. So not everyone is from software background. So she's from non-computer programming background. So her point of view could also be very useful, because she can tell about her approach, and if you are not from the programming background, that approach might be useful to you. Nidhi, you want to add something?
Yeah, so I'm basically from a production engineering background, and it was more related to the mechanical side. What brought my interest was robotics. When I studied robotics in my final year, I was really interested in how automation and all of that works. And then I was introduced to AI. So then I thought of taking this up as my career. And also, while I was doing my course after my graduation, and we learned so much over there related to how data science works and the different concepts, and how do you make maximum use of the available data you have. I'll share an example with you. This friend of mine who was doing the course with me, so he was an electrical engineer, and after completing our course and learning how to make the best use of data, he literally went and applied that to his company, where they had a lot of data relating to the sensors and all of that, which was prior unused. They had not touched anything of that. So he literally became the AI head of that now. So that's the best example that I can think of.
Nice. Good. So I hope you have got 4 different point of views to the same questions. And because everyone is from a different background and doing a different role, you'll find out this is how you can define your own path. The assumption behind this question is there is only one path to get into the field of AI. No, there isn't one. You, based on where you are and where you want to be, there are infinite ways of getting in there, and you simply need to find out. So for example, if you simply search top 10 roles in field of AI and data science, this is a link on KD Nuggets where you'll find a lot of links about data science related fields, where you have data engineer, decision maker, analyst, expert analyst, we have statistician, applied machine learning engineer, then we have data scientist, analytics manager, uh, social scientist. The ethics is also the new thing in field of AI now. Researcher, and then some extra people like people like this. All of these are part in to come under the field of AI. All of this, it's a multi-dimensional field, so you are not restricted to just becoming one thing out of them. You have lots of option with us. Just find out the one which suits you the most. That would kind of like summarize this question. I hope this answered the question.
I just try to add a bit at the last in concluding the answer for these questions.
Please do.
So it is something that try to understand that you are a professional, working professional. So every working professional might have their own customized journey to get into the field of AI. For the example, I come from a mathematical background, and suppose I want to get into the artificial intelligence, then I know that my strongest point lies within the technicality of mathematics. So there I can get as my weapon to get into the AI. But if you come from a business background, it means you are pretty much good on domain experience. You understand the business perspective. You understand the data of business perspective. So that might be a starting point for you. So it is definitely a customized journey for every working professional. So first to figure out that what is your strongest perspective, what is your exposure so far, utilize that exposure as a starting point and get into the field of AI. Because AI is it is based on the data driven approach. It is something you learn by experiment. It's not a quantum physics where you learn everything, then you go to the experiment. Here you experiment and you learn eventually to become the expert. So that is like just my last the point I wanted to add here.
Awesome. That's a really accurate representation of how the journey is going to be. It's going to be customized for every one of you, and you have to pick and connect the dots going forward to eventually land in the field of AI. If you do that, you'll find your journey much smoother. So I hope that answered your question. I'll mark this as answered.